Hi everyone, and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell, and welcome back to Corey as well as we do another Meet the Elite team reveal. And guys, this week is the final game week before the World Cup. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Guys, welcome back to the channel with me, Tom Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at UtterlyTC. And look, I'm so excited to say this week we've got another manager to talk to us about their plans for the final game week, guys, before the World Cup. And I'm super excited to welcome back Corey Baker onto the channel. Corey, welcome back, man. How's it been going?
It's been going well. Thanks, Tom.
Good. I'm super excited to talk to you again, Corey. We were talking off air there. You've always got some interesting thoughts there. So I just want the guys to look on the screen there in terms of how you've been doing. I should say, guys, this live rank was the rank as at the beginning of game week 15. So the game week that has just been completed, and it will have been updated. But Corey is not going to necessarily know how that's been doing because we are recording just after the Spurs game, and I'm not even going to mention the score of that game, guys. I'm sure you have all watched it, but Corey is in a weird position not having watched that because he's on the East Coast of America, hasn't actually finished those games, so I'm not going to give any spoilers on that one, but that live rank I'm sure will have been updated. But Corey, talk to us about how your season's been going so far. What's been going well? What kind of decisions do you think you would have had in retrospect if you could have your time over and change them? What would you have changed, and what's been going well for you so far?
Yeah, my season's been going okay. I think that this game ranks after Saturday, so I think I was like,
oh, okay, cool beans.
250 coming into to the week.
Yeah,
I've made some solid decisions, and things like Martinelli, Gabriel at the beginning of the season.
Yeah,
and then latching on to Trippier pretty early. But I've also had some coin flips that have gone the wrong way. Haaland and Kane week one did not work. Obviously, nope. I did immediately correct that Sunday night. I hate making early transfers, but had zero in the bank, and Haaland was going up, and it seemed like a must-have, which has obviously turned out to be correct.
Yeah,
had De Bruyne for a while, which went well, but he making that decision on my wild card to go 3 premium ended up with me not going with some of the mid-range midfielders where James Madison's just been ridiculous. He continues to score a lot more than his underlying stats suggest he should, but he would have been someone I would have really considered otherwise. So it's been a mixed bag, which I think is why my rank has been where it has been. What's been really interesting is I have not moved. I've been between 200,000 and 260,000 for like 9 straight game weeks. So I can't go up or down. I've just kind of been stuck there, but not in a bad space. Good enough that I can progress from there.
Yeah, definitely, and that's really interesting. So keeping that kind of that overall rank, within those certain parameters you've just mentioned, then Corey, like to managers who've maybe newish to the game or who aren't necessarily so sure as to how to gauge what that overall rank means at this stage of the season. I mean, we were talking off air about your aspirations for the season, which we'll talk about in a moment, I should say. But an overall rank of around that kind of 250,000, around that rank after a dozen or so game weeks. How do you gauge that then? Are you kind of comfortable with that? Do you think that's kind of absolutely fine? I mean, obviously, clearly you're aspiring to do better with those awesome ranks we're looking at on screen, but to managers who are kind of newish to the game, how do you think they should kind of feel about a rank in that sort of ballpark?
I mean, it can feel like you have no chance, but if you do the math, even now we're still, just barely a third of the way into the season. Yeah. So there's a long way to go. Once the blank game weeks and double game weeks start and people start using their chips, there'll be a lot more differentiation, chance to move up the ranks. So you don't want to be discouraged, but obviously it's great to have a platform in a better spot to build from. My goal is usually top 100,000 after 10 game weeks. Obviously, I'm not there, and so I'm a little behind where I'd like to be. But it's not so much that it's not something you can overcome.
Yeah, I mean, you might be. Also, we haven't. You don't know the Sunday results, right? So we don't know that for sure right now. Yeah.
That's true. Maybe Gabriel had 2 goals from corners, and
who knows?
And maybe I'm great. Who knows?
I couldn't possibly.
I'll find out soon enough. But the one thing to keep in mind, though, is, I mean, things can fluctuate.
Yeah.
I've personally gained 30, 40 points in a mini league and also lost that in a single game week. So a few years ago, I was 20th overall, I think, in game week 30 and ended up 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of chance to go up and down both ways. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, managers approaching this stage of the season, right, with the weird kind of break that we're going to have now whilst the World Cup's being played, that there will be temptation for managers to kind of, if they're not doing so well or comparatively thinking they've not done so well, to look to leave. And I would really hope people don't do that, because like you said, there's so much opportunity, guys, to really change things. You've effectively got a de facto wild card coming our way, and after the next game week to reset, you've got all of the double game weeks that Corey referred to upcoming in the second half of the season as well. And you can see here on screen the chips available. Corey's got heaps. I'm sure a lot of the people watching will have as well. So stick with it, guys, and stick with what you've done so far. Trust the process, I think, is a manager parlance, which we try and adopt as well. So yeah, definitely. And for a guy who's done as well as you, Corey, to have that advice is, I think, hopefully quite encouraging to the guys ahead. Just a quick one, going back to your thoughts right at the beginning when you mentioned Erling Haaland and Kane, and you corrected that immediately. Transfer strategy is something that the viewers have sort of talked about in the comments recently, Corey. Is that something you tend to avoid, those kind of early transfers, unless it's like do you know what, this is a season defining one, and normally you'd say, do you know what, guys, hold fire, wait for that weekend and gather more info? How do you approach transfers more typically?
Yeah, absolutely, especially with the condensed schedule and how many midweek games that are occurring, especially for the big teams who are in Europe. You really need to make sure that, unless you are absolutely priced out of something that you really, really need, just wait until at least the midweek games are over. Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of injuries midweek recently. Haaland himself, obviously got hurt. And with some of the rotation that certain managers of certain big teams like to do, it's kind of interesting to see who they might play in the midweek. So yeah, unless you, team value is great, but you can lose the advantage of team value with one bad midweek transfer if it requires you to end up taking a hit to undo it. So yeah. The Haaland thing game week 1 was somewhat unique. No money in the bank, and they also didn't have a midweek game. So the risk was less. It still was risky, but it to your point was, I think, season defining, and it really turned out to be so. So that was, though you can do it occasionally, but I would really, really be reticent to do that unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking to the other elite managers that I've interviewed over the course of the last several weeks, Corey, that steer has been pretty consistent, actually. And I think there's been a bit more exception to the rule early on when there's kind of more fluctuation and what have you. And it's something that seemed so crystal clear, as it has proven. Not to say Kane's not been a great choice, right, in terms of his, consistency, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Kane's done fantastically. It's just Haaland is another level we haven't seen.
Yeah,
so.
That's right, man. I mean, look, so you were positioned 350 and change after Saturday fixtures. You've no idea how you've done on Sunday. I'm about to reveal the team to the guys in terms of how you've set up your bus team for game week 16. So, and obviously the people watching will have known those results as well. So without further ado, guys, let's take a look at and see how Corey is set up right now without having known how half of the fixtures have gone. And obviously with midweek fixtures, we've got Carabao Cup games, etc. to come. Let's see how that team is shaped up as we look ahead to game week 16. So, guys, I've decided not to do the reveal piece by piece. I wanted to get this on screen straight away so you can digest this motley crew that has been established. And I say that with a smile, because Corey's got no idea whether or not these people have impressed or have let him down over the course of the Sunday games. But look, there's a lot of names there which I've been seeing through the other elite managers. And I think to your point about sort of staying and treading water a little bit over the last few game weeks, Corey, before we talk about the specifics of that, do you think this season is being more template than you've seen in previous years, or do you think that's just recency bias? How do you think about the template as a concept this season?
Yeah, it's been without question the most templated season I can remember. I think last game week I had something like 5 players that had 40% ownership or higher. And if you start factoring out dead teams, that means that over half the active users have those players. And with Holland being perma-captain,
Sure.
and some of these common players like Cancelo, Martinelli, Trippier, it makes it more challenging to move up and down the ranks. But I think that template will break. I think there's going to be some interesting decisions coming after the World Cup.
Yeah.
But it's so far it's definitely been a very, very rigid template.
Yeah, agree, and that's how I felt too, shaping it up. And I wonder as well whether or not there's temptation from managers to desperately try and deviate from that template and look for that differential and end up kind of shooting themselves in the foot as a consequence of that, where you try and find something that's just not there. I mean, is that something that you've seen your maybe not your peers but people in mini leagues do? And actually the advice from a great manager such as yourself would be is the template for a reason, and it's fine to kind of stick with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Until maybe the last couple game weeks, and if you're in a mini league in a very specific situation, just take the players you think that are going to score the most.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the ownership. Don't worry about anything else. Take the players that you think are going to score the most. And if you think, for whatever reason, you don't think it's right to captain Holland, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just go for it. But understand that you need to be certain of that, and you don't want to be doing it just to have a differential, because again, there's a reason why he's being captained by everybody. And there's no sense in just being different for the sake of being.
There's not. No, as fun as it would be to catch lightning in a bottle, it's not easy to do, is it? No,
yes,
absolutely agree.
Right.
So I mean, look, let's look at this team. The first thing that leaps out to me, Corey, is you're one of the few teams that I've seen, not just in the elite teams, which you can visit, guys, as you know, over on fantasyfootballfix.com. And just as an aside as well, Corey mentioned ownership there. There are some awesome ownership stats that you can really configure over on fantasyfootballfix.com if you're interested in overall ownership. There's also the option, as Corey made reference to there, to filter out those dead teams, i.e. teams that have not made a transfer in 5 or more game weeks, to see how the teams are being managed by the folks still engaged in the game. So I would encourage people to do that. But of those managers that I've been interviewing, Corey, pretty much ubiquitous to have 3 Man City players. You don't. What was the thought process behind that? And is that something that you're looking to address for game week 16 or beyond that? What was your thought process there?
Well, I didn't really want to end up in this scenario.
Okay.
But with the City Arsenal cancellation, when I pulled my wild card the week of the Queen's funeral service, when we had multiple blanks, I decided I went 3 City at that point, so I had De Bruyne instead of Salah, with the plan of getting Mo back because of the fixtures he had both in the blank game week and then immediately following.
Sure.
So I had a plan to get Foden in until Foden did whatever he did to make Pep mad. And once that occurred, it just never fit. There was no other real options. I had price issues this week. Yeah. That ended up with me having to drop Kane. If I didn't have those price issues, I might have done something like a punt on Alvarez or done the Salah to De Bruyne. I thought about a hit for De Bruyne, but it just didn't make any sense with only 2 game weeks. So
I understand.
I would prefer to have 3 City, but I just kind of I worked my way into this scenario. Based upon the circumstances. Yeah.
And I mean, looking at the team now, so obviously Cancelo having picked up that red card for conceding the penalty in the Fulham game, just having gone in game week 15, so he won't be available for the upcoming fixture. Then, what is your thought process?
No,
there?
He should be. So
go on.
So he should. I think he'll have that suspension in the Carabao Cup. Against Chelsea.
Okay, so he'll be.
So he should. Yeah, he should be.
Okay.
That's what I thought was the case.
You may be right, and I get confused by the intricacies of the domestic laws when it comes to red cards. Okay, let's put a positive spin on it, right? Let's say, and look, his status will become will be available on both the FPL website and, of course, fantasyfootballfix.com will have you covered there, guys. So apologies if I got that wrong. I'm sure Corey's right and I'm incorrect. But let's say he is available then. In terms of transfers then, Corey, you've got one available, one free. I'm assuming that your advice would be hits to be avoided at all costs with just one game week before you get a de facto wild card. Let's say it's just one transfer. What are you looking at, man? Without having watched half of the games, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot I can do. I don't have a ton of money in the bank.
No.
And while Zaha hasn't been great, he does have Forrest on the road.
Yeah.
Mitrovic has an injury potential, and United have been playing very, very well. So potentially downgrade Mitrovic to Solanke or someone else. There's a potential for a goalkeeper upgrade, maybe Ederson. I don't know. I really haven't. There's really not a lot of flexibility here. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I mean, who knows? Maybe Salah to De Bruyne. I don't know. I doubt I would do that, but who knows? Yeah,
no, I get it. I think as well, if you're looking at someone like Kieran Trippier sitting on your bench, Corey, there's someone who's been, what a terrific pick right from the beginning of the season, even with playing a Chelsea team who's impressed under, since Graham Potter took charge there. Would you have any, misgivings about starting him if you needed to in that sort of game? If other managers are in the position where not set up quite as strongly as you and need, quote unquote, need to start him, does that feel like a bad pick anyway to include Kieran Trippier?
No, absolutely not. Given his role on set pieces and his bonus, he's just a bonus monster. There's absolutely no. I didn't start him at Man U, and he didn't get any bonus there, but he did get a clean sheet. And no, I would have no reservations. I still could potentially start him, and I mean, even if I don't change Mitrovic, I might just swap him in Mitrovic. I haven't really thought it through.
Yeah,
but
and I mean,
lots of options.
The Mitrovic one's going to be frustrating for a lot of FPL managers, right, Corey? He's had a great season over the first half, right, until the World Cup. There's been a couple of injury things and niggles and what have you, but represented great value, hasn't he? And Man United are playing a lot of football, aren't they? And obviously Carabao Cup, whether or not they go full strength in midweek remains to be seen. But again, not a bad pick, you would think, to have against a team that presumably won't have Raphael Varane available, which does make them considerably weaker, doesn't it, at centre half? So looks like you're really well set in terms of how the World Cup, Corey. After you're going to get through game week 16, are you just going to check out from FPL altogether during that period, and you presume you'll take an interest in the World Cup? But what's your kind of thought process in terms of how you're going to relate the World Cup to your fantasy football team?
Yeah, I will. I'll just be watching the World Cup. I can't imagine I'll be paying too much. I'm sure there'll be reports from some of the friendlies that teams will be having and such. I'll read up on it, but ultimately we won't know much until we get maybe a week from the EPL restarting, which I'm not even sure what the date is. It's mid-December, right? I'm not even sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back on Boxing Day. It's going to be hardly any time, right? So we don't know which teams are going to go deep in the World Cup, of course, but we know that a lot of the Premier League players will be, of course, over in Qatar training and competing and what have you, and how they'll come back and how teams will manage their individual rest. It's going to be so, I guess, unique and weird for us as managers to have to be really reacting to that pretty quickly with information coming at us from all angles, right?
Yeah. So I'll probably start looking at my team maybe 10 days out and start planning. Presuming the price changes are being freezed, I think that was the note. If the price changes aren't being freezed, then I will absolutely be looking at the price, the price predictions on Fix and making moves based upon that. Given they're all free. So
good shout. Yeah, something to watch out for guys. And as Corey says, you can follow the price changes predictions over on fantasyfootballfix.com. And I think they are being frozen, but we will confirm that on the website, guys. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. Corey, I just want to ask you again, just focusing in on this team. You've got Webster there in the back line there. Obviously, you've got a home game against Aston Villa under Unai Emery. I'm not going to spoil the result today for you, but how's Webster done, and how do you see this Brighton team defensively? Is he someone, clearly a make weight that you've supplemented also with Gueye from from Crystal Palace there as well. But how do you see Brighton as a defensive team for FPL managers? Are they a team that you'd recommend looking at?
So I've had bad luck with Brighton defenders, but they're solid.
Yeah.
I like them better when they play 3 at the back, which they haven't done. Veltman got hurt and they moved to 4 at the back, and they stuck with it versus the Wolves this week.
Yeah.
And didn't look nearly as good as I'd hoped. But Webster's not bad. He's got some set piece threats. Same with Dunk. So they're a solid team. Sanchez as a goalkeeper,
Yep.
they don't give up a lot of shots.
No.
So his save his save points are always a little low. So he's not the best, but he's not bad either. So they're a ridiculously well coached team under Potter.
Yeah.
The new manager seems to be following through on that. We'll see, but they're a joy to watch.
They are, man.
So,
Definitely.
yeah.
I'm to completely share that view. It's an interesting team to look at. Clearly, they've got great options in terms of the value that they provide, I guess, for managers as well. Look, one of the players that you mentioned off camera that you did know had done something on the Sunday for game week 15 was Miguel Almiron.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to mention how the game progressed, but he scored the opener.
Right. Yes.
I mean, what a story, right? In terms of what he's done previously. He's hit the ground. He's had such a great season so far. Not in your team right now, Corey. You're maxed out on Newcastle there with Nick Pope in goal, Kieran Trippier in the back, and Callum Wilson up front there. Let's say game week 16 is too difficult to accommodate him. Clearly, that would involve a hit, which I can't imagine you're going to be advocating with a home game against Chelsea. But is he going to be someone that you're going to be like, as soon as that unlimited transfers in the World Cup comes around, he's going to be, boom, Miggy's in the team?
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if I don't have them. Mm-hmm. Again, I haven't looked at it too closely, but I know Newcastle have a couple good fixtures coming out of the World Cup. And Paraguay is not in the World Cup, so he will be rested. Mm-hmm. And given his price point, I definitely think he'll be there. Zaha certainly won't be. And I doubt Salah will be. So I'll have, 2 midfield spots to fill. And I would be very surprised if he's not one of them.
Yeah, I understand. And what a story for him as well. And it's really interesting, isn't it, seeing, this Newcastle team, how well they've done, how well Eddie Howe is doing without having, I guess, signed the superstars in terms of, flagship names we would be familiar with. And that's not to denigrate the people that they have signed so much, but they're doing this well already. January's coming. They're going to have an open checkbook then if they want it as well, potentially. So the fact that you've already got 3 Newcastle players in your team, Corey, I wonder whether or not that's going to be a staple for both ongoing throughout the course of this season and, for many more seasons to come.
Yeah, maybe. I definitely won't have Pope, but I could see Trippier, Wilson, and Almiron.
Okay, so let's
in my game week.
Let's tap into that. So Nick Pope, I mean, he's been in a lot of people's teams. Super frustrating in terms of some of the late goals. I guess Newcastle have given up after they've played ever so well, and he's done well. They've defended well, but fantasy football doesn't necessarily care about that, right? It's that clean sheet. So, is the advice there? Thanks for your time, Nick, and have a good Christmas. And I'll see you in another season, I'm sure. And he gets replaced.
I don't even think I would thank him for his time. Coming into the World Cup or coming out of not World Cup, coming out of my wild card, I debated. I call them coin flip decisions, where they're really, really close. And I debated Raya instead of Pope, and then improving my defense. And that would have obviously don't know exactly how the transfers would have gone, but I probably would have been a net plus 20 points or so if I'd have done it. So I'm not a Nick Pope fan at the moment.
No, I understand it. And so I mean, do those calculations include, so if Rayo had been in, Almiron could have found his way in, and as a third,
there's so many things, right? I would have saved money, and then I ended up with Nico Williams, who lost his place which wouldn't have been a big deal except for with the Arsenal City week when they had a blank. I had so many players, I needed a defender, so I had to transfer him out, and it's just this kind of
The ripple
snowball
effect. Yeah, the ripple effect.
Exactly. The butterfly effect of one transfer kind of can fundamentally change your season. And so
don't I know it?
You got to get those right more often than not.
You do, right? To have a great season, I do think, they're those 50-50 calls, of which there will be so many throughout the course of the season. You've got to be on the right side of your fair share to have a great season. But that's not to say you can't be well prepped to give yourself the most information to make good, sensible calls, beforehand. And hopefully that's what fantasyfootballfix.com and all of the elite managers' notes, which we provide on the website, enable people to do. And look, I mean, I can't give you spoilers on how Sunday's gone, Corey, but I've got no doubt that your season is going to go from strength to strength again, and you'll retain your position on our roster of elite managers for the rest of the season and into next season as well.
Hope so. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, as ever. And look, it looks super well set up there. Final question from me, Corey, for this week's video. You've got 3 Arsenal guys there. You won't know how they've done so far this week, but how confident are you in the job that Mikel Arteta's doing there? The composition you've got of Gabriel at centre half, they're kind of one of the more expensive, I guess, options compared to somebody like a Ben White. Saka and Martinelli have been fantastic, obviously, in the midfield. It means you can't have Gabby Jesus up front. In terms of Arsenal moving forward into the second half of the season, let's say including game week 16 for Wolves as well, so 16 and beyond, how would you kind of position them and recommend FPL managers think about Arsenal for the rest of the season in terms of who you'd select and how many, etc.?
I think Arteta, once they embrace the youth about November, December of last season, has just done a fantastic job. And these kids are really growing. They're a little light in central midfield. I think they need another central mid in January. I doubt they get one, but they need one because there's a little light there. But they're just an absolute value for fantasy Premier League purposes. They have so many great. I mean, Xhaka at 5 or whatever he is now. I don't know. He's getting in the box, and Odegaard's like, there you have. I would be shocked if I don't have 2 and 3 Arsenal players at almost all times.
Yeah,
so
me too. And you think that the composition you've got right now, forget personnel, but having 1 defensive player and 2, I guess, offensive with the midfield, whether or not that's a Jesus and 1 other midfielder or 2 midfielders, you think that's how you'd recommend that you see them more as an attacking option rather than defensively?
Yeah, it's I really, unless you're really an amazing attack, and Arsenal's very good, but I sometimes shudder to get 3 attackers from the same team. It can work out. It's just, it can be difficult. And I think White, especially now that he seems nailed, I have Gabriel, but there's this, just kind of ended up that way. I suspect I'll probably end up with White, Martinelli, and then either Saka and Jesus, or again, maybe I need Xhaka for some reason to need some money. Who knows?
Who would have thought that the penultimate video before the World Cup, and I'm interviewing an elite manager, and Granit Xhaka is the final name that we end up talking about for the week. But that's how it's gone. He deserves it.
He's making great runs. He's getting into the box. He's not prolific, but at his price point, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. I probably not, but we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Look, Corey, it's been an absolute pleasure as ever to talk to you, and there's lots of interesting, insightful thoughts. So I guess a few things, just a clarification there, guys. We think that Cancelo will be available for game week 16 for the Brentford game. That will be information that will be available on fantasyfootballfix.com, and I'm sure you'll check it out through the week as well. And in terms of those price freezes as well, guys, that information will be available on our website as well in terms of how those are going to play out for during the World Cup as well. So look, Corey, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again, man. Really, really very best of luck for the rest of the season. I'm sure I'll get you back on the show later in the season. Any final thoughts that you want to wish the guys before I sign off?
No, just good luck, everyone, and enjoy the World Cup.
Yeah, man, for sure. Guys, do please get your comments down below and let Corey know how he got on Sunday. I'm sure he'll be fascinated to find out in the comments to see what your thoughts are on his team and how it performed in the second half of game week 15. And do please smash a like on the video on your way out, guys. Do please subscribe to the channel and subscribe to fantasyfootballfix.com as well. And guys, I will see you during the World Cup. We're going to keep the videos coming. We're going to keep the content coming for sure. And we will be back, with more Meet the Elite team reveals reveals in the second half of the season after the World Cup. But from me, Tom Campbell, at UtterlyTC on Twitter, I wish you the very best of luck for Game Week 16 and enjoy the World Cup, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers, guys. Take care.